Breathe in and breathe out. Did you know that indoor air you breathe could be up to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air? Fresh Air Matters specializes in helping you create a healthy indoor environment by cleaning the air you breathe. They offer local plans and services that include air filter replacement plans, air duct cleaning, and many more. Go to freshairmatters.com, call or text 469-469-1852 to learn more about cleaning your indoor air. That's freshairmatters.com or 469-469-1852. Tell Steven you heard about Fresh Air Matters from the Back in the Day podcast to receive a special discount on air duct cleaning, air purifiers, and more. Again, tell them that you heard about it from Back in the Day podcast. Welcome back to another episode, guys. Today we have one of my good friends from growing up. He is the GM for the Lubbock Matadors. That is a semi-pro team out in Lubbock, Texas. Is Dustin McCorkle. We talk about how Dustin got into pro sports, how the soccer game is changing in West Texas, and how he's trying to bring more awareness to that. We talk about his name change from Dusty to Dustin, and a lot of other fun things, guys. So make sure, if you are in the Lubbock area, make sure you guys go check out the Lubbock Matadors. Go support that team. A lot of fun things that they're doing over there, and you'll hear more about that on this episode. Enjoy, guys.
Hey, are you talking about back in the day?
Nah, man. I'm talking about back in the day.
Back in the day. Back in the day. Back in the day. Back in the day.
Joining me today on the Back in the Day podcast is my homie for about like 20-25 years now, the great Dustin McCorkle. How are you, Dustin?
I'm doing wonderful. Glad
Dustin, a.k.a. Dusty McCorkle.
It is funny. My wife will say she knows at what point in my life people came in based on what they call me. So
when did you do the transition from Dusty to Dustin, and what made you decide to do that?
Well, I had wanted to do it for a while, but it's kind of weird when you have somebody growing up and then you're all of a sudden like, hey, start calling me my real name, even though that's like what you've known me as my whole life. So college.
So was Dusty like the sorry, we don't have to go like crazy into this, but like but I'm interested in it. So was Dusty like a family nickname, and it's like they also started calling you as a kid?
Yeah, so mom named me Dustin with the intent of calling me Dusty because it was Texas.
Okay.
That was her
Thanks
thing.
a lot, Mom.
Yeah,
right?
so, but, as you get older, anything with the, Mikey,
yeah,
that you don't want to be that. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So you go into that, and then you're like, college, finally I can change.
Yeah, it was actually, college was a great reset for me. So I got to reposition who I wanted to be in life, and that's when Dustin was born. Yeah,
I would have done the same thing 100%. Like if people were calling me Mikey, I would have done the same thing too. But like what's funny about that is I ran into someone recently, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, that was like from like elementary school, and he went by Danny in elementary school, but now he goes by Jeremiah. And he like came to one of my shows, and I remember like roasted him. I was like, "You can't go from hey guys, it's me, Danny, to yo, what's up? I'm Jeremiah." Like those aren't like that's not the
not
same.
Even close. My brother's name is actually Daniel, and he was Danny, but now he goes by Dan. So.
Yeah, that's different though. That's the same name. That's the same like 100%. Family. Like you couldn't be like I'm Dusty, now I'm Joaquin. We're not.
I don't even want to go by middle name. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dustin, man, I appreciate you coming on here. I was giving you a hard time telling you that you're the king of Lubbock now. You're the GM of the Lubbock Matadors soccer team out in Lubbock. How long have you guys been around?
So, the Matadors came about in 2022. So, this was our second season that we just came off of. So, pretty incredible, though. For those who don't know much about our league, like we play at the semi-pro level. Our teams that we play, there's actually a few here in Dallas. They average around 100 people a game, and Lubbock averages 5,000.
Wow.
So this isn't some, just some family members and some random people that like soccer show up. Like we create a really big event, and Lubbock isn't really a soccer market, but we've got thousands of people that come to our games.
What do you think the difference is? Do you think it's because there's not like a ton of competition? Like other pro sports, or it's just like something new, exciting? Like, what do you think the difference is on that?
Yeah, am I allowed to pat myself on the back here?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the point of coming on podcast.
Right? I would think that a little bit of that, right? Like, I think Lubbock's been craving to have something outside of Texas Tech. Like, that's what the town's built around. But during the summer, there is absolutely nothing happening sports-wise. So we come in a really good time of year where if you want to do something with your family, get out and about, whether you like soccer or not, there's a fun event going on. But I think I've used my background working in the NBA, working in the NHL for 10 years, working in pro soccer, helping out with the Detroit Tigers for a little bit. Like, I've taken all of these things that I've learned and I brought it to the semi-pro space. So when you come to an event that's ours, it doesn't feel like you're at a semi-pro game. We have a really cool game day experience. We make it very interactive for the kids, and it's a great way to go spend some time with your family. So
yeah, absolutely. Like, you talk about like making it interactive, like with the kids. Like, that's like why like Savannah Bananas is so freaking popular, is because they're doing more than just the game. I'm not saying that you guys are doing dances and stuff
I actually
like
had
that.
my social media team meet with their marketing team.
Really?
Yeah. So what's cool is at this level, like when I worked in the NBA and the NHL, like we had very strict guidelines of what you can and can't do. At this level, you can take some risks, take some chances. If things don't go well, it's not a big deal, but you can think outside the box. And if it goes really well, now it's something to go replicate that you may not have gotten to try at the Power Four.
Gotcha. So for like the level that your team is, what's the goal of those guys? Are they trying to eventually like go MLS? They're trying to play overseas? Like what's kind of their track that they're trying to make?
Yeah, that's a great question. We grab guys from all over the world. And what's unique and actually a little challenging being in Lubbock, it's like recruiting here versus recruiting for a Dallas team. Dallas has a lot of stuff going on, but these are guys who are looking to be seen so that they can go get drafted. Okay. And so we literally had probably 20 different countries represented on the Matadors this past season. And these guys it's broadcasted games. They're playing top level talent from all over the world. Okay. That is on their way to play pro sports or in between pro sports contracts.
Are they younger for the most part? Or, I mean, like, or do you have any like journeymen, 32-year-old?
So I would say every team is built different. So up in the Northeast, it's huge soccer culture. They tend to have USL and former MLS guys that are hanging out in the area that are looking to play soccer and stay sharp.
Gotcha.
The Matadors do not have that luxury of having this talent of late 20s and 30-something-year-olds. We build ours literally on, I think our average age is probably 20 and a half.
Where are you guys getting your players from? Like,
yeah, so we literally so they play D1 colleges all over the country. Okay. We had 2 local guys. So Lubbock Christian University has a soccer program. Big 12, Texas Tech, they don't have NCAA soccer.
Yeah, not a ton of soccer in the Big 12.
Yeah, so Title IX, all sorts of rules. When I transferred out there, I didn't get to play anymore. So we grab a couple of guys locally that can come in that are local that people might know, which I think is meaningful because I think people need to have some Lubbock recognition. But even those guys are from Spain and some other places, so they're not like born and raised in soccer in Lubbock. So now, and then we go and recruit literally every state, with different relationships that we have.
You know what I always find it funny, like you said, like those guys came from like Spain or whatever, and they like the international guys, like they end up like in a town like Lubbock. Nothing wrong with Lubbock, but like I went to junior college out in a town of West Texas as well. And we had like kids that were from Germany and like Russia, and I'm like, what? This is like what you think America is, like just like nothing at all.
Well, that's the thing is like, you have these guys, and this is the biggest compliment I get from our players. Like, I think a lot of them when they land, they're like, where am I? What decision did I make saying I'm going to come here? But they get treated like professionals. In our town, when our guys go out, people recognize them. When you play in Dallas and you're playing in the semi-pro level, you don't go to a bar and somebody's like, oh, I see you play for the Denton Diablos. Can I get your autograph? In Lubbock, you are treated like a superstar. And so
absolutely, it's a big difference. Like the Denton Diablos are competing against the Mavericks, the Cowboys, the Rangers, FC Dallas, the Stars, the Rough Riders. I mean, you can name 15 different things that they're competing against. At Lubbock, they're competing against. Is there an arena football league team?
No.
There used to be one, right?
There was an arena football. There was also a hockey team for a little bit. And so that was a little bit of the challenge of starting this team out there was when I was meeting with businesses locally to get some support and get some backing on it. A lot of them were like, hey, man, we've seen semi-pro sports come through here and they've left. Like, why are you different? And, part of them was buying into me and my background and what I'm doing. And part of it was understanding that we have 2,400 families participating in youth soccer locally. We have a relationship with those, and we've automatically connected there. And Lubbock's wanting something like that. So it's just a different level, and people are proud to see that badge being put on our player's chest because it's representative of the city. Where I feel like Denton people, do they take pride in being from Denton, or do they claim Dallas?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's not like we grew up in Carrollton. Like maybe every now and then, if you meet someone that's from the Dallas area, you're like, I'm from Carrollton. But if you're anywhere outside of the Metroplex, you tell people I'm from Dallas, and then they're like, oh, me too. And they all say, what part? And like, I'm from Garland. Like no one's actually, most people in the Metroplex, not most people, but a large majority of people from the Metroplex aren't from Dallas, but we all claim Dallas. And so it is a little bit different, like to claim Lubbock,
Yeah, it's a big deal. And actually it was funny when I worked for the Atlanta Hawks, everybody on the staff used to call me like Dallas. And it's because they said any opportunity I got a chance to bring up where I was from, it was an instant connector. Because what I learned was if you mention that you're from Dallas, either people know somebody in Texas or they might be a Cowboys fan. And so it was an instant conversation starter for me to be able to talk to people, relate to people about stuff that brought it back.
And people that are not from Texas don't realize how massive it is. So they're like, you're like, I'm from Dallas. Like, oh, I have a friend that's from San Antonio. Do you guys know each other? No, that's 5 hours away. Like where most places that you could get Northeast, you can get to 2 or 3 different states in 5 hours.
Yeah. So I played college soccer at Dallas Baptist University for a couple of years. And one of my teammates, one of my roommates, he's from Seattle. And he told me, he chose DBU to go play soccer, but he had never been to Texas. He assumed that everybody still had horses, and this wasn't like some joke. Like, he legitimately thought that people still rode horses. And secondly, he was like, dude, half of my drive was just driving through the state, and I came through 12 other states to get down here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a culture shock, and people are surprised too that I'm not wearing big belt buckle and boots everywhere I go too.
Did you ever have that phase? Did you ever have a belt buckle boot phase?
No. So funny enough, so when I transferred out to Texas Tech, I hated country music. I don't know if you listened to country when we were.
I didn't listen to it growing up, and it took me probably into my mid-20s, almost 30s to be like, I kind of like this, and now I like a little bit more.
Yeah.
Too.
So where we grew up, like I didn't realize the cultural influence that I was in at the time because it's just what I knew. But, we listened to pop and hip hop, and that was the majority of the music.
Yeah.
I got out to West Texas to go to school at Texas Tech. And one of the first weeks I was there, my buddies were like, hey, we're going to go to this bar. And we walk in, and it's a country western two-step-in bar.
Yeah.
Never even seen one of those.
Dude,
right?
At least you were in Lubbock where there was 200,000 people, and at least at Tech, there's people from all over. I went to freaking Snyder, Texas for my first 2 years of college, and it was like I was in another country. I mean, people, the fact that I had like earrings and different things like that, or like listen to hip hop, like you would have thought that I was from a whole nother world. I mean, people were wearing the worst clothes I've ever seen in my life. Just starched jeans at 8 a.m. in a class.
They weren't wearing the graphic tees like we were.
I never went through a graphic tees phase, but like I'm wearing like basketball, or whatever.
Totally.
And it's just like, did you ever, okay, take it back just a little bit. You said you went to Dallas Baptist. You grew up, you went to middle school with us, but not elementary school, right?
Yeah, man. Yes. And
Okay.
that was a hard transition. That was a real hard transition because I started out elementary school. I was in private school till 6th grade, and
in Carrollton or in that area.
So Rosemead area.
Okay.
I went to a Christian school, and I went to a school where we had like 15 kids in our class, and those were your classmates your whole time from kindergarten to 5th grade. And so my group of friends was so small, so tight. And then I walk into a situation we had to wear uniforms, you know, and then all of a sudden now I walk into my first day of middle school and you get to choose what you wear. And Jinkos, I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, Jinkos
were the thing.
hot, you know, 6th grade.
My parents, not cool about the Jinkos.
Me neither. I bought a pair of Jinkos from Blake Reams.
Shout out Blake.
Yeah, shout out Blake Reams. Like on the black market, like underground, and I like changed at school and wore them the first time I ever had Jinkos. I think my parents eventually found them.
Yeah, but it was a hard transition because I remember my first class was like Scott Weaver, Chris Miller, and there was somebody else who didn't end up graduating, but everybody had been in elementary school with each other.
Yeah.
And I'm at a table with these 3 guys, and they've like known each other their whole lives, and I'm sitting there like, I'm new kid, and then I'm trying to figure out how does public school work in comparison to private school.
And what was crazy about that area of Carrollton specifically, so you're in like a suburb that's 100 and something thousand people, but that little pocket of Carrollton when we grew up was like a small town.
Yep.
So there was only 2 elementary schools that fed into the middle school, and you might not, we're going real like insider on this, but at one point, the school that I went to after 3rd grade, a half of the people that went there went to the other school. Like they like moved them. So you pretty much were in school at some point with just about everybody at one, you know what I mean? Like there might've been maybe 25% of the middle school that you weren't in school with, but if you were in a class of 25, there was a good chance that 10, 12 of them you've been in school with since kindergarten.
Right. Yeah. And so it's just a weird, like middle school, you're trying to figure out, I mean, you've already got a lot going on, but on top of that, going from that situation to public school was just a huge shock for me. And probably one of my toughest school years ever, because I got in school suspension that year multiple times for skipping school.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. So
you go to, did you play soccer all growing up?
I did. Yeah. So always loved soccer. It was my first passion. I played all sports. I think basketball is the only thing I never played organized. I loved pickup, but I never got into a team. But yeah, I played soccer my whole life.
Like, where are your parents from? I mean, I know they wanted to call you Dusty, so they're from. Are they both from Texas?
No, mom was born in Arizona. Dad was born in Missouri.
Okay, because I wonder like sometimes like, are you gonna play soccer, boy? Like if that was like a thing, like.
No, I think my dad was super supportive of what I wanted to do. He didn't know a thing about it. I think it probably for him, he's never said it, but I bet it was a little bit like, this is difficult that you really like this. Because if you played anything else, like when I was playing baseball, he was totally in. But, you know, I think I'll never forget, I was actually a really good baseball player, and I think I'm probably built to play baseball, and I didn't stick with it. But partly because he was so into it, and it made it very difficult on me if I had a bad game.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what kind of dad you had on the sideline, but mine was letting me know if I wasn't playing well.
Well, so my dad is from Iran, so knew nothing about any American sports, knew a crap ton about soccer, and was a really, really good soccer player. So when I played soccer, it was always funny because he wasn't the coach, but he would sometimes come to practice and then like help out, and like the men that were coaching knew nothing about soccer, so they were just like, oh yeah, like give us all your knowledge basically, and then he would like, you know, step in a little bit. But it was funny, like the opposite is like when we go like the batting cages, and he'd be like, I remember once I got to a certain age and he'd be like giving me advice. I'd be like, you've never even swung a baseball bat. Like, you know, like
how did you not end up more into soccer?
I don't know. Same thing you. Like, you know, like I think sometimes, and I'm trying to figure this out, like as a parent as well, to really, it's so difficult to not want to have them do all the things that you love.
Right.
And sometimes, like, I mean, I want my girls to sit down and like watch OU games with me. Like, they don't give a crap about that. And they'll do it a little bit, you know what I mean? But I think sometimes, first of all, they have their own personalities.
Right.
You know, so I don't know. I probably there's a lot of running in soccer, and I try to sit around running like crazy. And I don't know what happened to where I played soccer up until maybe like 4th grade, but, and this is a problem, it's way worse now, but it was kind of bad by the time we were kids too, but it's gotten to the point where they want you to like focus in on one thing, where
100%.
everything is this year-round sport. And so it's like, I can't juggle playing basketball, baseball and soccer all year.
Yep.
And it wasn't as bad when we were kids. Now it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, my son Maverick is 3, and he's able to play now. And, you were at least 4 back when I was, so like now it's like 3-year-olds are out there playing,
Does he play?
We're going to have him go in the spring.
Yeah. Well, get ready, man, because we played kindergarten basketball last year, and we were behind.
Well,
Like, it was like, where do these kids, like, the kids are crossing people over and stuff, and I'm like, where did you learn this? Because they're supposed to be kindergarten, supposed to be chaos for everybody.
I think me having kids later in life has matured me a little bit to, if you'd asked me when I was in my 20s, like, do you want athletes? Yeah, I played college sports. I want my kids to play college sports. Like, now I just want them to be smart. I want them to be good human beings, and I want them to participate in something, but I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah. No, dude, it's so much though. Like, right? Like my wife and I talk about it all the time. Like, I don't really care what they do as long as they have to have something that they do. And I want it to be like group oriented.
Yep.
Like, I don't want a kid that's like, if your kids do karate, that's cool. But like, I don't want them to do like something that's individualized.
Yeah.
They can do that as well. But I also want them to have something to like band, theater, something to where they're working with other people and like have a common goal that they're trying to achieve so they know how to work with others.
If you can learn how, in today's world, this is the saddest thing in the world, to communicate to others and show up and work hard, you're outperforming 99% of the population today.
Absolutely.
It's wild. But I do think, what's really amazing about soccer, speaking about your dad, I never really thought about cultural dynamics, but it was a sport I played my whole life, and I was out there on the field with Hispanic kids, Black kids, Asian kids, and those were just my teammates.
Yeah, because the world's game, right?
Yeah, and like I never really felt any difference at all with racial anything because it was like those are just my teammates. But I really think that me playing a sport that was so diverse helped me evolve in that with those relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's such an amazing thing, and I'm really excited for 2026. The World Cup's coming here. I think you're going to have your good old football boys that think soccer is a wussy sport. They're going to get a ticket to go to Jerry World to go watch a World Cup game, and you're going to see them be like, wow, this is a lot different than what I thought.
Well, and here's the deal. And like football fans, I'm a huge football fan. I know Dustin's a huge football fan, so it's like we're not shitting on football when we say this. But you're like, people are like, I don't want to watch a soccer game, watch a game that's 3-2. No, that's 21-14 in football.
I've
like
just talked to somebody about that.
You understand that,
you
right?
add more points to it to make it sound better, but it's really not.
Yeah, it's like it's not. It's like I ain't watch a whole damn game, watch people score 4 times. That's literally what football is.
Yeah,
it's the same thing, and they stop and have breaks, and there's timeouts and stuff. Like if you watch, I think the problem is there hasn't been there's more now with, the different like streaming sites and stuff like that, but there hasn't been a ton of mainstream like good soccer in people's faces. But if you go and like you watch like good soccer, like it's pretty amazing. That's why everyone loves the World Cup. Like the World Cup, when you watch it, people are like waking up at 3 a.m. to watch Brazil play and stuff. One of the most common reasons for poor indoor air quality and HVAC malfunction is restricted airflow and poor air circulation caused by the failure to replace the air filters. When was the last time you replaced your air filters? Do you own rental property? Are you tired of climbing into your attic to replace your air filters? With Fresh Air Matters air filter replacement plans, you won't have to worry about replacing your air filters again. They provide the filters, they replace them for you, and they clean your return vents on the same day, same time, every 30 to 90 days. Go to freshairmatters.com or contact Steven at 469-469-1852 to schedule your air filter replacements plan or any other local IAQ services.
I think part of the problem too, though, is so many people they don't know what good soccer is either. Like the reality that somebody is running full speed with a ball a foot away from their foot, looking up, seeing 50 yards away somebody else who's running full speed, and they're in stride putting the ball on that person's foot across the field takes so much more talent than someone with an arm trying to put a ball in somebody else's hands. Like there's just so much more coordination that's required. But I think when people haven't really been in that situation to be able to appreciate it, it's difficult. But yeah, like we couldn't have asked for a better World Cup this past year. I mean, having two of the best guys in the world in the finals, and then the game having as many points as it did, and Messi's here in the U.S. I mean, my buddy who's the president of the Chicago Fire, which is the MLS team up in Chicago, he told me, he's like, as soon as Messi signed with Miami, we were selling season tickets because people wanted to secure that game.
Well, the tickets when Messi was here in Frisco were insane priced. I'm talking like...
And people got their money worth.
I know, because he scored 2 goals, right?
Oh, yeah. That was amazing.
And so it's like... I don't know. I don't know if soccer will ever be huge in the States. It's going to be to the point... I mean, it's getting bigger. The problem is that most Americans, like the best athletes, don't choose soccer. Is a big problem with it.
Yes. So there's a messed up model, which I'm sure U.S. Soccer would love me talking about this, but this is my opinion. Until we get rid of the pay-to-play model, we will not have top-performing athletes in that game.
Do you mean like the crazy select team type model?
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about?
Like you have to have financial capabilities and times. You have to be in a certain tax bracket to be able to have access here.
For sure.
And soccer is set up specifically that way. And it's unfortunate. Like you can't go into neighborhoods where people don't have that kind of money and be like, hey, let's create a pathway for you to... It's just not happening.
And what's crazy about that, if you really think about it, like it's so backwards thinking, because soccer should be played around like the not poverty, but it doesn't require anything. It requires a field, a net, and a ball. That's it in in bodies. So there's not all this crazy equipment that you have to purchase. There's not like anything that's crazy expensive. I mean, that's why soccer on an elementary school recess, soccer on an elementary school recess field is one of the most popular things to play, because all it takes is like 7-10 kids that want to go play, and you just run around with a ball. You don't need like a lineman, and you don't need all this different equipment and stuff like that.
Well, and again, there's too much politics in soccer. And the other thing I just love about the sport is, like, again, you take Messi as an example. I mean, the guy is itty bitty. What other sport can you look at and say the best player in the world is 5'6", 5'7", right? But you can also be 6'4" and be amazing, right? Like, there's just certain height and weight restrictions that are going to come on you if you're really good at basketball or you're really good at football, that at some point like are going to limit you to where this sport, it's not like that. And so I've always just had an appreciation for it, fell in love with it, and it's provided me a lot of opportunity, and now it's really cool to come full circle to be bringing the game to Lubbock and
for sure
representing our community.
So you move from DBU, then you go to Tech. What years were you at Tech?
Oh, I hate saying this. I was there 2007 to 2011.
Okay, so you had good years there.
No, I hate saying that because it took me a really long time I should be a doctor.
That's okay.
So
there's no timeline of how life's supposed to happen. I hate how people like act like that. Like you have to be done by this certain time.
No, I laugh because my wife always jokes. She's like, I was in school to learn, and I was like, yeah, and I was really good at college.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
I had 2 years of playing sports and traveling the country and getting that team experience in college athletics, and then I got to have a 4-year state university experience as well. So, and I was there during number 2 in the nation. I don't want to talk about your OU next week experience. I was actually, I went to Oklahoma for that game. But yeah, I actually tried out to punt that season for Tech.
Really?
Yeah. And it was funny. I was like the only one that brought friends to the tryout. So there was like 50 of us lined up on the field, there was like 10 rows of 5. I had never punted a football ever. And I'm literally asking the guy in line. I was like, I played soccer. I can kick a ball. I was like, hey, how do you drop this ball? Because my first 2 were like shanks. And so he was like showing me in line how to do it. And every time I walk up, my buddies were in the stands like cheering. And like, so the coaches were looking at me every single time. And I ended up crushing like my next 3. I hit like a 60, a 58, 57. And they were like, came over and was like, can you keep doing that? I was like, I can try. And so I ended up making the final cuts for that, but it didn't end up happening.
Was that the year that Leach signed a kid to be the place kicker off of winning that contest?
That was the year before, yeah.
The year before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a crazy, kicking is so crazy. I mean, the Cowboys kicker right now didn't even play football.
He's a soccer player.
Yeah, and he's booting it right now.
Yeah, and wife tells him during a game, like, you could do that, and then he just goes out and starts practicing. But you know what's funny is, like, I really wish somebody had, when we were playing football, like, if you were a kicker or a punter, you were getting made fun of. Like, that wasn't a real position. Like, we were still back in the time where we were roasting.
Yeah, dude, our senior year of high school, the kicker was the backup quarterback. Like they didn't care. Like, and he was a really good quarterback. Like, the quarterback, he went and played D2 football as a good quarterback in college.
Yeah,
like no one was saying like we should specialize in kicking.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, like, it's like, man, like, I always had a leg, but like, again, it's just one of those things that you don't want to go get. It's hard getting roasted out there. And when we were in middle school, that was actually the good transition for me, was playing football. Great adversity, because I don't know if you remember, but I was super chubby coming in that 6th, 7th grade year. And when we were doing tryouts, I went to the wide receiver stuff, and everybody was like, what's this fat kid going to do? Trying out for wide receiver. And I was hearing everybody like making little comments, but I could catch. And I ended up making the Falcons in the A team.
Yeah.
And
we went undefeated, by the way, guys. Just
we did.
FYI.
We did.
There's a banner up in our
but I got moved to tight end, and I ended up cutting a bunch of weight because of just, playing the stuff. But I always was curious to get into the kicking, but I never tried it because of that reason. Silly.
Yeah, should have done it for sure.
Well, but now it's encouraged. I mean,
Yeah, dude. Okay, I tell this when I live kind of in a very very white suburb of Dallas.
Yes, you are.
And when we moved out there, there's like these really nice football fields across the way from where we live, and we go there. We're taking our kids to the park, and we're like watching these kids play. They're like 7 kids like hanging out, and they're practicing punting, like not playing pickup basketball, not like throwing the ball around. Like, they're just hanging out punting. And I was like, man, we moved to a white ass neighborhood. like the kids,
yeah, we're not out there playing. We used to do the tackle football. That was our Sunday.
Dude, we used to play tackle the man with the ball at my church, where just whoever had a ball in their hand, you would just tackle, and we would just destroy kids. And and you'd be in your church clothes, and so I don't think you can play that anymore. And one time they took away the ball from us so that we weren't allowed to play. So then we started playing tackle the man with the paper, and we would just find different objects that we would use to try to get around being able to do that. Okay, so you moved to Lubbock. After you graduate in 2011, your next stop, was that working for the Atlanta Hawks?
It was, yeah. So I kind of lucked into the sports world, but it worked out. I moved to Atlanta without even seeing it. I had a couple of phone interviews with the New York Mets, and I was actually on the verge of going to the San Diego Padres to go work there. But the cost of living was astronomical, and people don't tell you. What's funny is because I go back and I talk to students now that want to work in sports. Everybody wants to work in sports, but they have no idea what sort of jobs are there outside of social media manager, and everybody wants to be a general manager because they think that they can do that job. And so explaining to people the pathways and jobs in sports, but also how crappy the pay is. I mean, it's brutal. I was essentially making $10 an hour plus commission.
Yeah.
Starting out. And so
we do inside sales ticketing.
Yeah. So I started an inside sales ticketing program. And what they do is they recruit 15 people from different states, but there's only 2 or 3 spots for promotions. They put you on an 8-month contract, but you have to sign a 12-month lease on an apartment. And so it's literally who's going to grind it out and be here at the end. And fortunately, because it did take me a little while to graduate, I was in a different economic position. I don't come from money. Mommy and daddy couldn't send me anything. And all these other kids, if they weren't selling stuff, they didn't have to wake up the extra hours. And
and they're not 25. They're not there really is a different in your mindset age 25 and like age 22. Like at that time, I know when I was 25, I was done with going out all the time. I would go out sometimes.
I didn't feel like I was missing out at all. So, but I was still doing that. I mean, I was in a brand new city in Atlanta, which I loved. They call Atlanta. Have you been there?
I've been like once or twice, but not for any period of time, like 1 or 2 nights.
So they call it the Hollywood of the South. And, I got to be, I'll never forget, like my first week there, I ended up in a rap video, like not on purpose, but I happened to go into a pizza shop to grab some food. And when I came out, they're shooting a film in the street. And that was just the culture. I ended up getting in a 2 Chainz video. Nice. And they were shooting a Terminator video outside of our offices one day. Didn't alert anybody. All of a sudden, we just hear rapid gunfire. But it's like a crazy. It is such a cool city, and I got to make it my own there. I had a blast.
What? So you're in Atlanta. How many years were you in Atlanta?
Almost 5.
And then from there, you go to New Jersey.
Yeah. So I ended up living right on the Hudson. So. Pretty amazing view. I mean, I look outside. New York City's outside my window, and our arena was just on the other side of the river.
How did you like living in New Jersey? Were you in New Jersey or were you in New York?
I was Jersey side.
Okay,
but New York City is a 20-minute train ride.
Yeah. So how did you like living there compared to Texas, Atlanta, New York?
I never thought I'd be moving up there. I mean, that's just crazy. When I graduated from Tech, I felt like everybody just moved back to Carrollton.
Okay.
Like that was kind of thing. And even when I was at Tech, there was a ton of people from our high school that were going to school there. I didn't really hang out with those people because I was like, I want to go find new relationships, build, and do something different. And so I didn't see myself ever doing that, but I actually was super grateful that I did. Like single was awesome. Beyond that, I can't imagine living up there trying to raise a family or anything of that nature, but it was such a cool moment in my life that, I mean, literally anything you want to do at whatever time, there are people that were willing to go do it with you. So it was such a cool moment for me.
Yeah, understandable. I mean, it's definitely a completely different like speed mindset. And then from there, did you move to Lubbock?
Yeah.
So you went from like
it was culture shock to culture shock.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine. But I will say, like, what age were you when you moved to Lubbock? Like back to Lubbock?
30.
I think at that time.
Actually, I just turned 31, yeah.
You're like ready to kind of. There is something, like you were bitching the last, 45 minutes ago about the traffic here, like in Dallas. Like there is something kind of nice to having that, like,
yeah, man.
Everything's right there. It's slow.
I'm at that age where I actually enjoy watching my lawn get watered.
Dude, there's nothing better. Then like sometimes I just go and I watered last night, but it's not really my turn to water, and I'm breaking the law. They have like the codes that you're not supposed to water, and I'll go at midnight and turn that on, and just watch that bad boy get wet.
Yeah. I joke. My wife obviously brought me back to Lubbock.
Is she from Lubbock?
Outside of
Where's she from?
Morton. So It's on the border of New Mexico and Texas, but Texas side. But yeah, when we got engaged, I was in New York and she was in Lubbock, and we were having the conversation of like, hey, this is great. We're deciding to get married, but like, who's moving? And I just told her, I was like, I'm not leaving sports. I've worked really hard to get up to a really good level here. Like, I'm not just going to give that up to go live in Lubbock.
And now you're in Lubbock.
Yeah, but I didn't have to give it up. I didn't have to give it up. And we did have that conversation. It was like, hey, like we could live in this awesome 1-bedroom apartment where we have these amazing views, but it's a 1-bedroom apartment where we're paying. I think at the time my rent was $2,000 a month plus bills, plus $250 a month for parking.
Yeah, and that was 10 years ago, or whatever it was.
Dude, you're making me holy cow. But we already had a plot of land to build a house on in Lubbock, so it was like, do we want a house?
Yeah,
and space, or do we want to go live in this? And part of me always questions like, what would our life look like if we had taken a chance of just starting our own life in a different city and getting away? But it's turned out really well.
And it's cool that you got to experience that, right? So like you got to do like best of both worlds of like, I lived in Atlanta, then I lived in New York, and now I'm in Lubbock. And it's like, so you get to say like, I did all, at least you got to experience it.
Yeah. I put my professional career on the forefront for a long time. So I didn't get married till I was 31.
Which isn't very old. You keep acting like you were this like
Well, I feel like
42-year-old man.
I feel like
finally
it's older for like we're just now having kids, and I feel like a lot of my friends, their kids are at least in late elementary, middle school, and some of them are in high school now.
Really?
Which is crazy. Yeah. And so I just like I feel like I'm behind everybody in that stage of life, but that's okay.
I don't think so, because I guess maybe for like your crew, but like I feel like I have 3 stages of friends that like marriage and all that stuff happened. There was a group that got married like the day college ended.
Yep.
Right. You know, it's like we got like the day
they were
college
saving room
ended.
for Jesus.
Yeah, they got. Oh yeah. Well, those were the ones that did that. Were my friends from West Texas. Like, you know, there were just that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
And then there was a group of us, and I'm part of this group that got married like 3 years after college. And then there was another group that started getting married at like 31, 32, 33. So like, I don't think that you're like, I think there's our age group. I think 30 is kind of young. I mean, we have mutual friends that we grew up with that they're not married and not even close to being married, and more power to them. You know what I mean? Like, do your thing.
Hey, if you're happy.
Yeah, whatever it is that you want to do. Whether you suffer from allergy symptoms like sneezing, coughing, itchy eyes and throat, runny nose, asthma, more severe respiratory issues, or even cancer, poor indoor air quality has been directly linked to your overall health. Take control of the air you breathe today. Contact Steven of Fresh Air Matters for more. Fresh Air Matters has everything you need to clean the indoor air before you breathe. Go to freshairmatters.com/air purifiers and use my promo code PASVAR, that's PASVAR, at checkout to receive a special discount on all air purification products. Go to freshairmatters.com or call or text at 469-469-1852. That's freshairmatters.com or call or text at 469-469-1852. All right, so name of the show is called Back in the Day, right? So each season I focus on stories from your past, like a specific theme. This year I'm hearing stories about times that people got in trouble, like fun stories about that. Do you have a story for me about the worst time you ever got in trouble at home?
At home, no. But
Okay.
I do have a...
Did you never get in trouble at home?
Dude, I was...
How many siblings do you have? Just the brother?
I have one younger brother.
Who was the troublemaker out of the two of you guys?
So neither one of us were really troublemakers. I say my brother was very passive aggressive.
Okay.
So like he would do things in secret where I would be vocal. And I think that was probably the most annoying thing to my parents was like, I always had an opinion and I wanted to share it. And I think where they grew up, it was like, no, kids, you don't have say.
Opinions.
Yeah. But like, I didn't never, like, I always need to know the why behind things. Like, you don't like the whole, just because I said so didn't make sense. So yeah.
So never got in trouble at home?
I mean, not anything outside of me getting, the skipping school scene. I think that was the worst at home trouble I got in.
Okay.
But it was such a challenging point in my life. But I did have a very scary encounter with the police.
Okay. We'll get to that. So what's the worst trouble that you ever got at school?
Yeah. So I think middle school.
Okay.
I had a period where I had stopped turning in homework.
Yes, absolutely. Love that.
And I had to get... we had a big come to Jesus meeting because I was 20-something assignments behind all my classes.
What grade was this?
Sixth grade.
Okay.
Yeah. So I coming from private school to public school, I feel like I was so far ahead from what we were learning. I was bored. But then I just started all this stuff that was happening. I was just like, I don't even want to be here.
And there's so much bullshit work they make you do that it's just like...
So I ended up... my parents ended up finding out about all this stuff. And so all of my teachers conferenced in, and we had to have this meeting where I was to get initials in my planner, daily planner, every day that I did my assignments. Well, that got old real quick, and I started forging teacher signatures.
Yes. Yeah, of course you did. Oh, so it was your teachers had to sign each
teachers had to sign. So I was forging each teacher's signature, and this was after I got caught skipping, which I was really good.
Where were you going skipping?
I was staying home. So both my parents went to work. I was, we walked to Arbor Creek. So I would act like I was walking, and then I would go right back home, and then I would hang out. And one day, actually, my dad came home from lunch unannounced. I heard the door open, and I went and sat in my closet. Never knew I was home.
Yes.
And I had skipped, I think, 15 days of school. Did not get caught until I actually had a reason to be out of school, and I didn't get a doctor's note. And my mom was like, I need to go inside with you to make sure that they know that you were at the doctor. Like, I don't want you getting. I was like, no, I'll tell them. And
how did no one catch on that you had not gone to school 14, 15 days? Like, no one called the house?
Honestly, I cannot.
You know what I mean? Because, dude, when my kids miss school, like, legitimately, here's what happened. And they're in the same school district that we went to school in. So, like, maybe this is a new thing. But when they miss school, if we haven't notified the front office by, like, a certain time, we get a phone call, like an automated phone call. Like, and my wife gets a call, I get a call, and it's like, to report that your kid was not at school today, please make sure you bring a doctor's note. Like, it's like they're on you like crazy.
I cannot remember the system I had in place, but it was really good because nobody ever said anything. I didn't get questioned, and what ended up happening was my mom came inside with me to the school to let them know, and Miss Maybe, I'll never forget, she, amazing lady, was like, Dustin, we missed you so much last week. And I was like, I could feel my face get bright red. And I was like, what do you mean?
Let's be real, she said Dusty. She didn't say Dustin.
She said, we missed you so much last week. And my mom was like, huh? And I was like, no, I was here. And she goes, are you sure? I could have sworn I saw you were marked absent. And I was like, no, I was here. And she's like, your teachers must have made a mistake. Let me go check and make sure I didn't mess something up. And then I just knew at that moment she's about to go ask everybody, and everybody's going to be like, no, he wasn't here. Yeah. So I walked, my mom stayed, I went to class, and I just had my head down. I was just waiting.
You're like,
and then
shit.
Like the next period, the intercom comes over and I get called down
to the principal's office. What did they hit you with? Did you have to go to like pass? So our pass was like, I think that stood for, it was in-school suspension, but it was like principal's alternative to school suspension. So it was like pass or whatever.
Yeah.
That pass was always funny to me. I had it twice and it was just a complete waste of time. Actually, pass allows you to, it lets you know how little you actually do. Because they give you all of your work at 8 a.m., like for the entire day with the instructions, and you can work at your own pace. And I was always like, I had it 2 times, and both times I had it, I was done with my work by like 9:45.
Yeah, like 2 hours and you're good.
And I was just like, what do we do now? Like,
yeah, and then it's just like, you're just quiet.
Yeah. And you're like, I have to be here for 7.5 hours for this.
I'll never forget it happened in high school too. And I won't mention the name, but like 8 of us all skipped that day together. And one kid got caught by his mom, and he went to the principal and ratted all of us.
What?
Rather than saying that he just did it on his own.
Yeah, because they didn't like give him less time. This isn't freaking a TV show.
Yeah, we one by one got called in because he gave every single name.
Dude,
I'll never forget our vice principal. I don't remember what his name was, but he's like, "You're going to Wednesday night school," and I was like, "I have church," and he's like, okay, you're going to Wednesday night school. I was like, well, what happens if I don't show up to that? He's like, you get in-school suspension. And I was like, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
And then
I'm not coming at night when I can do the same thing. Yeah, like, give me the 8 hours in the box at the school on a Tuesday.
So he's like, I'm going to get this bright idea. I'm going to call his mom and tell him that he's refusing to go to Wednesday night school. And then I'm like, now I'm arguing with my mom over the phone, like, because she's like, just do what he says. And I'm like, I'd just rather do the in-school suspension. And so ended up having to take pass.
Yeah, I think that's so funny that like the person like turned you guys in, like nothing good came. It's like they were. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe they strong armed him, dude, and they told him that like you'll only get one day.
We were all threatening him like behind closed doors, like, dude, like you can't. His mom's calling all of our moms.
What did y'all do on your skip day? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, we drove. So this was big when we got into. I think Jackass was out.
Okay,
and so we had gotten I had a home video camera. And so we went around to some gas stations, shoved some pillows in each other's shirts, and were wrestling in the gas station, filming it, doing that. And then we went to somebody lived in an apartment complex with a pool. So we were like, let's go swimming, and then we played basketball. Like, I mean, we were just
living the dream,
out having fun. And doing what 16-year-olds do when you get your car.
Until that kid ruined it for you guys.
He did throw us all under the bus.
How did he? Oh, his mom found out. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I can't. He got caught at home. He was the only one that didn't have a good story, I guess. And I don't know if the school called her, but he just immediately folded. And and then all of a sudden everybody's that she could get a hold of parents got phone calls.
That dude's kicked out of the group for sure. After you can't trust him. Like you can't. Like you know what I mean. Like
I still have never asked him why. Like
yeah.
Like
how much pressure do they put on you?
Come on, man.
Like Dr. Tomney is not that. Like you're like getting that beat down. I subbed at our high school after college.
That's incredible.
For one, like the first year after college, it was me and like 2 other friends did it too. And I got written up by one of the teachers because I let, like, you know, like kids will like write on like the dry erase board. Like they're like, okay, we have you second period. And then another my friend has the same teacher fourth period and like write like a little note like, hey, I miss you, like some girl, whatever, you know, right? Yeah. One of the kids did that and I let him do that, but I didn't erase it. And I guess this teacher was like brand new, like fresh out of college. And I guess maybe she thought she was going to be in trouble for that. I don't know what happened. And so she like wrote me up. I was like, that wasn't on the lesson plan. I had to go to the.
What was written?
Nothing. Like, hey, like it was like a hey, I love you. Can't wait to see you or whatever. Nothing bad at all. And I just didn't erase it.
Teachers write other teachers up?
They can write the subs up. So like she wrote me up. And like I had to go to the principal's office, like the principal that was our principal growing up, and he was dying laughing. He was like, "This is familiar," you know, whatever. And he was like, "Dude," he's like, "Just next time erase it."
Who was our history teacher?
Don Rowland.
Rowland.
Yeah, James Donald Rowland.
Yeah.
We told this poor. Actually, I really liked him, but this guy was deaf. He couldn't hear, like, if from me to Dustin right now, we're 4 feet from each other. He couldn't hear someone yelling from that distance to each other, but he could hear like if you barely tapped like that. He would like freak out. Like he'd be like, "What's that tapping?" So we like we would do things like where we weren't even driving him nuts, like even being bad to him. I remember me and one of the people, he brought a old Discman and some speakers, and while he would lecture, we would play that music and we would dance in the front. Like it's just dance, and he would never even know what was going on.
It was funny because that class, I remember, it was like, how did this group of people all end up in the same class? Because it was some characters in there that was like, you know, like regulars down at the principal's office, and we're all in one class.
I very rarely ever went to the principal's office.
No,
but I was very good at leading what people should get in trouble for, and just like making sure that I was out of it.
I always got told like by the teacher, parent-teacher, like, your son's a really good kid, but he really encourages with the laughing. You know, like I'm like, well, you know, stuff's funny. And I'll never forget when we stole his remote. And one of the kids kept changing the channel and then we ended up watching a movie because he's like, I guess the TV wants us to watch this.
I guess we'll watch the movie then. You know, like, and he was, or whenever before test we would say 1, 2, 3 cheaters, and we would cheat on the test. And he'd be like, "What is it that you're saying?" I'm like, and I made up the story that we were all on a soccer team growing up called the Cheetahs. And so when like for camaraderie before we like to yell "Cheetahs." Right, like to like remember our coach that like worked hard for us and everything's like, oh, it makes sense. I like that.
Yeah, my favorite was when he would start. I think halfway through the year he started sending people out in the hallway, but then he would send multiple people out. So then we started playing like hacky sack. There's like 6 people from that class out in the hallway and they're playing hacky sack. It's like we didn't accomplish nothing in that.
When he saw me when I was substitute teaching, he gave me the biggest hug. He was so excited. He was like, "Oh!"
He really was a nice guy.
I loved him so much. James Donald Rowland. I hope you're still doing good.
I used to go. I knew where he lived in the apartment complex. My buddy lived right across the street from him.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Because he tried to have us come move him, and he was like, "I pay $8 an hour," and we're like,
"That's not bad.
That's not enough." And he's like, "Well, it's going to go down to 6 if you don't say yes." I'm like, that's not how that's supposed to work. The demand is not there, buddy.
That guy was awesome. He was, and like, do you remember like the final exam? Or not the final exam. There was like this kid that like got on his computer and just like changed everybody's grades. I don't remember that kid's name.
Oh my God.
All I can think about, he was like a larger Hispanic guy.
I do remember.
And he just like got on his computer and he was like, all right, dog, you got a 96 on this. Like he was like giving out grades to everybody. And the man was just right there and didn't have no idea. Part of me thinks he knows that everything that was happening, and just he's like 65 years old, 70 years old, and like he was like, I don't give any shit about any of this. Like I'm just living the gravy train. I'm fine with making.
You know what's funny is I did learn something really powerful in that class because he liked me. I learned that sometimes in life it's the relationship. It's not necessarily, you know, what you're putting out on the paper or whatever else. And I took that with me to college. Like, you know, there were kids that used to get mad at me all the time, but I would always be like the last kid to finish a test because a professor would always come up to me and be like, where are we struggling? And I'm like, and I was like, I'm feeling good about this, but I'm like, I got these 3. And then they would work through with me and get me to the answers. And then all of a sudden I got like a 96 on the, you know, the test. And it's like, I may not have gotten that, but it just taught me like, you know, like you're good with people, those relationships, like people want to help.
Yeah, for sure.
And it, you know, took that to work with
and
me.
he was a cool like teacher that he didn't ever get mad about anything. He like actually cared. Like he would like sometimes I feel like he would like sit around like ask us about our weekends and like sit there and like chit chat and shoot the bullshit with. And he'd laugh at our stupid stuff. Like, you know, like
we did have a fun class.
Like
though.
he was like the Hebron grandpa. Like, you know, like he was like the grandpa of Hebron, unless you were tapping. If you tapped in that class, he would kill you. Stop that tapping, you know, or whatever.
That's exactly how he talked.
All right.
Too.
So, all right. You have a story for almost getting in trouble with the law?
Yeah. So, one of my favorite memories, but also one of the scariest moments was when I was at DBU and we had gone to New Hampshire to go play. And coach told us that he said, and I had never been to New York before, but he's like, hey, if you guys beat New Hampshire tonight, I'm going to drive you out to New York City to celebrate. And we were like, okay. So we ended up winning that game. And we had 2 white travel vans that were just blank. Drove to New York City. We parked down by Times Square. And he's like, hey, it's 11 o'clock, 1 a.m. I want everybody back here at these vans. So we're out. And we're all in our like soccer warm-ups. Like we just got done playing a game. So I learned about New York police there. So we're hanging out. One of our buddies like, hey, I'm going to go get some McDonald's. And so we were all standing there and we had 2 police officers come up to us. He's like, what you guys doing? We're like, waiting on our friend. He's like, bad things happen in groups around here, separate. And I'm like, man, like we're a soccer team. Like we're not a gang.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't like how y'all are dressed. Separate, you know, and like none of us had been there, don't know what we're doing, and we're all like 18, 19 years old. So we separate and then we kind of come back together. So as we're coming back together, one of our buddies is at a little truck buying something, didn't know what he was buying. Those same cops, we see this guy running, just laughing, and he's like waving. And those cops that just came up to us are like chasing after him. And I'm like, where am I right now? So we're walking back to the bus or the vans. We get in our vans and we're waiting to leave. And my buddy Tony, the thing that he bought while he was at that stand was a laser pointer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're waiting to leave. And he's like, oh, I wonder how far this thing goes. So he starts like, he's like, hey, look over here. There's like a diner. He's like, let's see if they see it. So like, we can see there's like a laser like on somebody, and we're all like laughing in the car, and we're like, they don't even notice it. And so we're doing this for about 5 minutes.
Nerdy soccer kids just like, look at this laser pointer, you know,
dude,
like
hey, you're 18 and you're entertaining yourself. Yeah. How far does this thing go?
Yeah.
So
just naive and having a great time.
So I was in the 3rd row of the van, and all of a sudden I just remember looking over to my right, and I see a flashlight and a gun. And as I'm saying, what the, I hear the 2 front doors get thrown open. My buddy, the driver, and the passenger get thrown out.
Are those y'all's coaches?
No, we had an assistant coach driving ours.
Okay.
And then the guy with the laser was in the other seat.
Gotcha.
But these are blacked out, tinted.
Yeah.
Not even thinking about, yeah. So this is after 9/11, right? So we're sitting here, and all of a sudden this cop comes in. He's like, put your hands on the seats in front of you. And we're all like, you know, just sitting there. And then nobody's telling us what's going on. So we're getting frustrated, and some of us are like, dude, like, what are you doing in here? Like, you think you're tough with your gun? Like, you're not even going to tell us what's going on? Like, this is stupid. We're soccer players. And so one of our buddies who, like, the nicest kid in the world, never heard him talk trash, not a good trash talker, is like, I bet I could beat you in a race. You're so fat, like insulting these police officers. And I'm like, this is going over really well.
Not a good move and terrible trash talk. Like, like, who cares? Like, like.
So as we're working through all this stuff, the police chief comes up 30 minutes later and finally gets in the van with our coach. And our coach is just like, got his head down, just annoyed, frustrated. And he's like, just want to let you guys know that we thought that you guys were a bunch of guys with sniper rifles, and y'all were about to start shooting in New York. And the last 10 minutes y'all were doing that, we were setting up a perimeter, and we were told that if you rolled down the window or opened your door as we were approaching, we were allowed to open fire.
Holy shit.
And it got dead quiet. And I was like, that was like the first moment where like reality, like, man, this is like, wow, this is really serious. And then he ends it with, watch out for the he-she's. We got lots of them around here. I heard it's your first time in New York, and then leaves. And that was it? That was our inning. And then we had a nice 2-hour drive back of just, I called my parents.
Silent.
Yeah, like I was like, I love you. Like, you like don't really like, I almost got shot by the NYPD. So
what happened when y'all got back? Did y'all like have to run for that? Like, was there punishment?
No, I think Coach realized like literally there was no ill intent. It just like dumb kids not thinking about the scenario and where we were, the history. Like, no. We had to run for other stuff, but not that. But
yeah, for sure. Like I could see, like, at least I could see some of the dumb coaches that we had in middle school not letting that go, being like, "You think you're tough with a laser pointer? Like, you think you're tough? Oh, coach is here. Let me act." Like, I always thought it was funny. Like, remember 8th grade? I won't say coaches' names, but
probably know who you're talking about.
Yeah, remember 8th grade? Every time that our high school was brand new. So our 8th grade year was the first year the high school was open. So the high school coach, the varsity coach, would come to our practices like all the time because they're like trying to recruit kids to make them. And anytime he showed up, our middle school coaches acted like he was the president of the United States. Why aren't you looking? He's talking. Coach is talking. Like, it's like, chill out. Like, because they all wanted jobs at the high school. And the ones that were the worst never made it to the high school. The ones that like they were like this dorky guys that were kissing this man's ass so much.
Well, well, I mean, there's a lesson in that, like, be authentic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He saw right through that. That's why those weren't the ones that he hired. He hired the ones that were polite to him and respectful, but didn't like fake it. I mean, 13-year-old me knew that it was bullshit.
Right.
You don't think a 35-year-old man could figure that out?
Well, you teach sales, like, like that's part of being a good salesperson is connecting with people, but also being like finding a way to like let people see who you are. Like, that's miserable.
Well, Dustin, man, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on. Is there anything you want to plug? Like, where can people find you or Lubbock Matadors? Like, where do they go to learn more about the team?
Yeah, I'm on all the social platforms. Would love people to follow us. We're launching teams across the country. I have a team in Maryland that just started this past year. We just launched one this past week in Columbus, Georgia. So Dustin McCorkle on Twitter and on Instagram and all that. And then LubbockMatadors.com is a great place. And AnnapolisBlues.com is our other team. So.
Sweet. Guys, make sure you check out Dustin and the Matadors. Lubbock, you're the number 5 largest like listenership group of this podcast for some reason. I don't know why. We do pretty well in Lubbock. So come out and support this team. It's a fun thing to do. Like, go out there, have fun, take your kids out there, grow that thing, make sure it stays. Don't make it like any of the arena teams and all the stuff that went away. Make sure it's a mainstay. Go see Dustin, follow him, follow the Matadors. You can follow me on Instagram at Michael Pasvar. Check out michaelpasvar.com for show dates. Make sure you like, subscribe to this podcast, share it with your friends. We'll see you next time. Bye now.